Hi, everyone. Today I'm speaking with my co author, Dr. Amy Fredin, on a really interesting matter that is of decision making. Accounting students often think of accounting as being the science of putting transactions in different pots, but it starts way before that at the decision making and information gathering phase. So she's going to share with us a really personal decision that she had to make.
Thank you, Karen. So back in 2003, I was teaching accounting at a 2-year college in West Central Minnesota. And I really loved what I was doing. I loved working with the students. I loved teaching the different subject matter, although it was a lot of preps at the time while I was teaching. And my husband and I had two small kids. But at the time, I was feeling like there was something more that I wanted to do. And I wasn't exactly sure what that was, but I just had the feeling that I should try to do something more, something different in terms of my career projection or the different activities that I was doing as part of my career. So I started thinking about what those options might be.
All right. And where did you go from there? What came to mind?
Well, there were a couple of things that came to mind initially. One was that I had been to a couple of conferences as part of the 2-year accounting organization tactic. And so I had considered maybe getting more actively involved in that organization instead of being just a member and going and attending conferences. I had thought about maybe becoming more involved in the leadership at that organization. So that was one idea. And then another idea that seemed a little bit more distant was possibly going back to pursue my PhD so that I could take my career to the next level and be able to teach and research at a 4-year university.
I see. So, if we were going to use our decision making framework that we feature throughout the textbook, would you say that your step one, clearly outlining the problem, is really kind of a hazy kind of feeling like, could I do more? Like a thought bubble above your head? Could I do more?
Yes, definitely that was part of it. And also at the time, so it was the early 2000s, and the 150 credit requirement had just been passed. And so the idea of my 2-year accounting students going to become CPAs was definitely a much harder path versus the 4-year students pursuing their accounting degree and CPA route. So that was another part of that sort of problem in that I wasn't quite sure what the projection would be for the 2-year students at that time.
Okay. Well, is there anything that moved you forward, or did you have any inspiration at 2 a.m.?
Not at 2 a.m. However, inspiration did strike. In the meantime, I attended a Minnesota Accounting Educators Conference where both 2-year and 4-year university faculty were attending sessions. And my family came with me, and the families of other faculty members came with them. So I was visiting with a number of faculty, again, from this wide variety of backgrounds, and just kind of getting a better idea of what they did and how they did it, and how happy and satisfied they were with their careers. And at the same time that I was visiting with the faculty members, my husband was visiting with the spouses of those same faculty members, and they were strongly encouraging him for to encourage both of us and our family to seriously consider that PhD path. And it seemed very intriguing. And so that path became a much more visible and I'd say attainable path forward for us to at least consider much more seriously than we had.
Well, sure. Two small children, a husband. Doing a PhD isn't simple. It's not a short term decision. And so a conversation that your wingman had starts to almost refine the problem. it refines the problem from, is there something else I could do? Now you're being able to really sort of concentrate that, where could I do a PhD? If a PhD is more reasonable, like where could I do it?
Yes, exactly. So we kind of moved into that information gathering stage of which schools I might consider applying to, how I was going to study for the GMAT in order to get a score high enough for these schools to consider accepting me, how far away were they, what was the research load going to be while in the PhD program, what were the options and opportunities for research assistantships or teaching assistantships? What was the cost of living going to be in these locations? How doable were those programs? And in other words, how likely was it that I would actually succeed and get through and graduate with that PhD, and keep my family intact at the same time?